40 years, more people have chosen ADT to help prevent crime than anyone else. Get ADT starting at just $28.99 a month.
Tested, trusted, proven ADT.
With 36-month contract for licensing and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
If you want to work until you drop, reduce your standard of living in retirement, or lose more of your hard-earned money in the stock market, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to generate a steady, predictable income, I'm talking real wealth and financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. A free report is now available that reveals the money-making secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. It reveals how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and wealth-building power without risking your money in the Wall Street casino. To get your free special report, visit bankonyourself.com. That's bankonyourself.com.
Today, the Swedish Academy honored Bob Dylan, its choice for the Nobel Prize in Literature. They say he was much more than just a prolific singer-songwriter.
In the most unlikely setting of all, the commercial gramophone record, he gave back to the language of poetry its elevated style, lost since the Romantic.
Now, Dylan didn't show up. He wasn't expected to, but his music was there. Patti Smith performed A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. There are a lot of Santas today in New York City, and they're looking for holiday spirit. Let's make that spirits.
SantaCon is coming to town. The annual pub crawl hitting the streets in 380 cities Saturday, from New York and Boston to Chicago and Los Angeles. Revelers at times enjoying the season a little too much, sometimes blocking traffic as the party spills out onto the streets. Organizers in the Big Apple are promising a more tame celebration and say they're working with the NYPD to keep the peace. So if you're out and see a crowd of red-suited Santas and helpers, better make a list and check it twice. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
9 police officers in Arlington, Texas have been fired for reporting traffic stops they never conducted. Officials in the Dallas-Fort Worth suburbs say 3 of the officers resigned before an investigation was completed. The department says that no fictitious citations were issued. This is ABC News.
You heard it at the holiday party. A cough. A big, loud, juicy cough. Then Cheryl coughed all over the luncheon. Who else saw that? Apparently no one, because one by one they're a feverish mess. But when it comes your way, you're ready, because you got a flu shot at Rite Aid, where they care about you and your health. So while they spend their holidays sniffling at Santa, you'll be tasting every flavor in Grandma's stuffing. It's not too late. Shield yourself with a flu shot from Rite Aid. It's free with most insurance and no appointments necessary. Rite Aid. With us, it's personal. Flu vaccines available while supplies last. Age restrictions apply in some states. See pharmacy for details.
Daria Albinger, ABC News.
From the KMET Weather Center for Beaumont and the Pass area, we'll have partly sunny, windy conditions this afternoon with a high of 65. Winds will gust to 35 miles an hour. There's a chance of a shower tonight. It'll mostly cloudy. We'll have wind gusts to 30 miles an hour with a low of 53. Sunday, there's a chance of rain. It'll be partly sunny with a high of 62 with winds to 30 miles an hour. For the Inland Empire this afternoon, we'll have a partly sunny sky with a chance for a shower. Our high 66. For Palm Springs, it'll be mostly sunny with a high of 73. I'm Rod Tanner for Smart Talk 1490 KMET.
Hello, listeners. This is Christopher from The Christopher Show. Hey, if you missed one of our shows here at KMET, don't worry about it. You can go to our webpage, and that's KMET1490am.com. Go to the homepage, click on the SoundCloud tab, and hear any show anytime you want.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
It is time. Constitution Radio here on KMET 1490 AM. Got Alex back in the studio with me. I'm back in the studio. You had Alex last week with Jan and Kurt, and they did a wonderful job carrying the show. Alex, it's good to see you, brother.
Good afternoon, buckaroos. Welcome to our clear-eyed colloquy on the United States Constitution and all local, national, and international issues that appertain thereunto.
That's well said, sir. And real quick, you've got a quote by George Orwell. I want you to throw that out there right now. Let me say something about Alex. The man is all about George Orwell's 1984. Matter of fact, we were talking about it before the program started, that if every average American was just to read that book, they'd probably pull their heads out of their butts and get what's going on.
I remember being in high school and having the flu and being in the tub reading George Orwell's 1984, and it was a life changer for me. I took on that cause as my own that day.
Now, so what's the quote from George Orwell you got here?
Well, appertaining, to use the word again, to the book review I'm doing on the war on cops, George Orwell famously said, "We sleep soundly in our beds because rough men stand ready in the night to visit violence on those who would do us harm."
Now you got a perfect
Couldn't
quote.
have said it better myself.
Yeah, you almost did. Yeah. All right. Before we get going further into today's program, I did want to remind everybody Christmas is coming, and you can go to DouglasVGibbs.com. All 4 of my books are available for sale. 3 of them on the U.S. Constitution, 1 on abortion. And also, don't forget our advertisers, and more specifically, Constitution Quest game. Go to constitutionquest.com. I think USA 2016 and the discount code still works. You can also let them know that you heard about it on Constitution Radio by entering Doug in the discount code. And on the air with us, I've invited a friend of mine, Alan Meyers, who is an expert on financial issues. He is a fellow of the American Freedom Alliance, as myself is, and works with G. Edward Griffin on Freedom Force International. G. Edward Griffin, for those of you who don't know, wrote the book The Creature from Jekyll Island, which explains how the Federal Reserve was created. And Alan Meyers is here to tell us that the creature from Jekyll Island is the bulk of our problem, when it comes to trying to protect liberty. And on the air with us right now, live from somewhere down south, hiding in his bunker near the illegal alien crossings. Welcome to the program, Mr. Meyers.
Doug, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being on. Just to follow up real quick on the last quote you got from George Orwell, this is my favorite George Orwell quote. "In the time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act."
There you go. Absolutely. For those of you who want to join the conversation, by the way, 951-922-3532. Okay, Alan, you and I have gotten to know each other over the years, and it is your belief that the Federal Reserve and even the existence of any central bank issuing the currency, that is our problem. That is what's basically the barrier between us and our full liberty as the Founding Fathers originally intended. Now, I've heard, and I'm going to kind of give you the attitude of maybe some of the listeners, I've heard that the Federal Reserve a stabilized economy that settled down the roller coaster ride.
That's the question?
That's what I hear.
Yeah,
Isn't that true?
No. Let's look at some facts, because I like to deal in facts. One of the mandates of the Fed, when I say Fed, I mean the Federal Reserve System,
mm-hmm.
one bank, all 12 banks, the Board of Governors, the whole system. One of the mandates was to stabilize the monetary unit. In 1914, when the Fed went operational, $1 had the purchasing power of 100 1914 pennies. Today, economists will tell you that the purchasing power of our dollar is 2 to 3 1914 pennies. This is almost a complete loss of value in the 100-plus years it's been operational. That doesn't sound to me like it's doing a great job. You can go look it up. You can look at the number of recessions we've had, the number of huge economic swings. Speaking of how bad the Fed is, the Milton Friedman, Nobel Prize-winning economist, is quoted as saying, in part, the Fed definitely caused the Great Depression by reducing the amount of money in the money supply by 1/3 between 1929 and 1933. That is a very heavy statement to make.
Well, now some will argue the Smoot-Hawley Act did it. Whenever you create that kind of trade war with that kind of tariff, that would collapse the system.
What we're talking about is when definitely causing a reduction in the amount of the money supply by 1/3. Now, I've asked physician friends, what happens if you take 1/3 of the blood out of a human body? They laugh at me. They look at like I'm an idiot, and they say, well, you're probably going to die. Anyway, to continue on, Milton Friedman wrote a monster book about the money history of the United States. His co-author, also an economist, Anna Schwartz. Now, Anna agreed with what Milton said. Now, these are two people from the outside looking in. What becomes really significant is what Ben Bernanke said in 2002 at an event commemorating the 90th birthday of Milton Friedman. Now, I don't have the quote with me, but at the end of a long speech, Bernanke said, in reference to what we're talking about, he said to Milton and Anna, regarding the Great Depression, you're right. We did it. We're very sorry, but thanks to you, we won't do it again. This is somebody at the highest level of the Fed admitting that what Milton and Anna said regarding the Fed and its effect on our economy is absolutely correct.
Well, so it created inflation, and among other things, and our politicians tell us they're not really sure what causes inflation, but they're always constantly working to combat inflation. But I've also been led to believe that the inflation, the deflation of the value of the dollar, and some of these other economic things that have been happening are by design and largely can be attributed to the existence of the Federal Reserve.
The biggest problem, other than the Fed, the Fed allegedly controls the monetary system. But think about its structure for a moment. You have 12 banks, and you have a board of governors.
Right.
The 12 regional banks are owned by member banks within each region. And
now, the public believes that the Federal Reserve belongs to the federal government. It's a federal entity.
That is absolutely not true.
Okay.
And I actually kind of wrote a little paper about it, but I'll just get to the nutshell right now, unless you want to go deeper into it.
No, please do. Go.
Each Federal Reserve Bank is regional, it's independent, it's privately owned, and it's run for profit.
Right.
The stockholders. Now, this is the term used in the 1913 law. The stockholders are the member banks within that region. Now, we all know that corporations in this country are operated for the benefit of their stockholders, not the public that they serve.
Right.
Allegedly, the Fed is the regulator of the monetary system. Yet each of the regional banks is owned by what I would call the regulatees. Now, when the regulatees own the regulator, who's really in control? There's so many reasons for why the Fed is private and not public. I think one thing that really seals the deal is that there are 12 banks. There's the Board of Governors. Keep in mind that no Fed bank gets any money from any federal state agency. The Board of Governors gets no money from the federal government. In fact, approximately 90% of the money that goes into as revenue for the Board of Governors comes from levies against the 12 banks. The other 8-10% is from their own operations. So none of those 13 separate employers gets any money from any government agency. That kind of hints at being private. The one thing that really sealed it for me is each bank has a financial audit every year. If you go into the notes to the financial statements, you'll find a section regarding pensions. The employees, all or substantially all, those are the words used, all or substantially all of the employees of each Fed bank and of the Board of Governors belongs to a private, multi-employer retirement plan. There's 14 employers in that plan. The 13 I already described, the 12 banks and the Board of Governors. The 14th employer in this private retirement plan is the plan administrator itself. When all or substantially all your employees belong to a private plan, retirement plan, your entity gets no money from any government. I don't know how it would be considered public. Does that help?
Now, what would happen if the Federal Reserve and the United States government did away with physical currency?
You mean go totally digital?
Yeah.
This would be the beginning of one incredibly terrible condition, and I'll tell you why. And yes, there are countries, I think specifically in Europe or the Scandinavia, they're really pushing for full electronic currency. A lot of people think, well, this would be fabulous because we won't have the expense of printing, we won't have the expense of minting, on and on and on. The vast majority of money, and money in the economic term, an economic term for money is M1, which is the simplest, smallest supply of money, and it's considered on demand. And there's 4 parts to it. It's cash and coin in circulation. It's all the electronic digits in checking accounts, not savings or any other account, just checking. And then traveler's checks issued by non-banks. That's a very small amount, so we can just consider the first 3. But the vast majority, probably over 90% of M1 is electronic digits already.
M1, what does that mean? Tell the audience.
Well, this is the economic term that's used. M standing for money, 1 being the smallest of the supplies. And this is the supply that is considered on demand, usable right now. And that's why checking accounts are sometimes referred to as demand accounts. Because the way they're set up is that as a depositor at a bank, you have the right to pull that money out at any time without any notice, which is not a savings account. If we went what we have now to full electronic money, no physical money, that means all your money is in a bank, is basically in a computer system, an accounting system. This computerized accounting system is at a bank. You have no direct access to it. You can't control it. The fact that you can now go to an bank, that's indirect. That's truly indirect access, because as people in Greece and Crete and Cyprus found out, when the bank shuts it down, it shuts it down. And
right.
people went for days without money. And then when they reopened the banks, they were told they could get 60 euros a day. To me, one of the real hallmarks of this full electronic money and no physical money is, in this country today, last I read, Social Security declares 1,000 people dead a month that aren't dead. One of the problems with this being declared dead when you're not is you don't have access to credit. You can lose your access to your bank accounts. Given that there would be no physical money in the system, you have no money. And it could
there'd be no.
months.
You wouldn't be able to accumulate wealth either.
Not monetary wealth. You could accumulate wealth in terms of physical assets, house, car, whatever.
Well, I'm sure they're working on eliminating that too. You know what? We need to go to break, and after the break, we're going to continue this conversation. Folks, stay with us. We're going to continue this conversation, and then after that, we're going to leap into Alex Ferguson's book report. We'll be right back.
You got a dent in your door, a scratch in your fender, or a scratch in your door and a dent in your fender. If you need auto detailing, if you need fire shooting decals on the side of your car, if you need a rally stripe right down the middle of your hardtop, I don't care what it is. The Patriots at AllStar Collision are the place you want to go. They're the only place to go. 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Web address allstarci.com to see all that they do and what they're all about. Phone number 951-279-9161. AllStar Collision, the kings of wreck and roll.
Help me fight the good fight. This radio program is funded by advertising dollars. So, if you are a business, add Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs to your business portfolio. If you are a listener, become a patron of the businesses advertising on this program. Without advertising, your weekend dose of truth ends. With more advertising, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs grows, and we will be on the way to win the battle to restore the Republic. To learn more, email us at constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com or visit douglasvgibbs.com. What's your constitutional IQ? Your quest to learn the Constitution can be fun for the whole family. Learn about the Constitution as you play the Constitution Quest board game. Learn more at constitutionquest.com.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman, President Wholesale Capital Corporation, your direct mortgage lender. Real estate prices are still low, which means now's the time to buy your next home before they go up. Whether it's a home to live in, a vacation house, or an investment property, we can meet your mortgage financing needs to help you realize the next phase of your American dream. At Wholesale Capital Corporation, we make sure you get a loan that you can afford with terms that work for you. Wholesale Capital welcomes FHA buyers, conventional buyers, jumbo loan buyers, and we proudly help the U.S. military veterans take advantage of the zero down payment VA loan program. Nobody treats veterans better than Wholesale Capital Corporation. Seniors, if you're interested in creating an additional stream of income or just making your mortgage payment go away with a reverse mortgage, Wholesale Capital would love to help you. To speak with a loan officer who has your best interests in mind, call Wholesale Capital at 855-640-2020. That's area code 855-640-2020. Wholesale Capital Corporation, where we can close.
Welcome back. Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs, right here on KMET, 1490 AM. You know, if you're listening to the program and you didn't catch the whole show, you came in late, you can go to our website page on KMET1490am.com and catch the podcast. You can also, if you're not in your car, don't have a radio signal, you want to listen live, go to KMET1490am.com when we're on the air to listen on your computer, or for that matter, download the app. So with your smartphone, to make your smartphone even smarter, download the KMET app by going to KMET1490am.com and then scrolling down to the button for your appropriate smartphone operating system, or for that matter, go to your store, your Play Store, and find the app there. Great app. I love it because most of these apps, when you pull them up, you got to fiddle with them before you can get them to play. KMET app, the moment you tap it, it comes up on your phone, it starts playing. Just one tap, easy, makes your phone smarter. Okay, welcome back to the program, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs. You can learn more about me at douglasvgibbs.com or read what I write daily at politicalpistachio.com. I am also a featured writer at Canada Free Press, 5 newspapers, 3 in California, 1 in Idaho, and 1 in Oregon. Been on TV a little bit, and coming up soon, we are going to have a program with the Congress of Racial Equality, putting Constitution classes in minority neighborhoods. I'm excited to be the director and coordinator of that effort. Been, speaking with a lot of the persons involved, including spokesperson Niger Innes quite a bit. Larry Elder, it looks like we're going to have as our, well, I shouldn't say it just yet, but it looks like we're working towards getting him to be our spokesperson we've got pretty much gotten everything done except for the final "yes, I'll do it, Doug" basically moment. So pretty excited about what's developing in our world here, especially here in the state of California, where, well, let's just say it's a rough ride. You buying your bags, or are you just carrying your groceries in your arms to the car, Alex?
I'm carrying my groceries in my arms.
Yeah, hidden tax. They scream environmentalists save the planet to get you to pay 10 cents a bag. Because if they had just said, "Hey, we're going to tax you 10 cents a bag," it wouldn't have worked.
My resentment of the bureaucracy knows no limits.
Well, you know what? I think the resentment of the bureaucracy by Alan Meyers is similar. Alan, you have a resentment towards the bureaucracy, especially when it comes to the Federal Reserve, I bet.
I have a huge resentment to the system. It's totally unnecessary. It does not do what it promises. And the ultimate end is to the detriment of the people of this country and basically how this country operates.
I bet you, though, it does what it was secretly designed for.
It's running perfectly. We have, if you look at the national or federal government level, we have three types of debt. The Treasury debt, everybody knows about. It's
right.
It's now just hanging in under $20 trillion. Just to bring some context to trillion, because it's really becoming just a word.
Right.
For example,
we didn't even say trillion when I was a kid. Heck, billion was a big number back then.
It was monster. Well, a trillion, just to put it in terms that most people can relate to, a trillion seconds is a little more than 31,709 years. A trillion inches, if you could walk a trillion inches, you would walk around the Earth at the equator 633 times. If you could fly a trillion miles, you'd fly a distance that's equal to about 107 round trips from Earth to Pluto and back. That's 1 trillion. Our federal government treasury debt is just accelerating at an incredible rate. For example,
and what goes up must come down, right?
Well, I believe when national debt comes down, you have an economic displacement unlike anything that we've ever seen in this country. But you can see it in the history of other countries.
Right.
For example, and just to give you an idea of the hockey stick graph that you would have on the national treasury debt, on January 20th, 2016, which is the anniversary of a president being inaugurated or their years in office, on 1/20/16, national treasury debt was just under $19 trillion. Of that amount, just round numbers, 78% of that $19 trillion was acquired in the prior 23 years. This kind of borrowing, this indebtedness is unsustainable and soon to be, paying it is going to be soon unsustainable, and paying it off is not possible. But that's only one of 3 elements of federal government debt. There's the unfunded liabilities. We know it as Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid.
Right. Pensions as well, right?
And what? I'm sorry?
And pensions, right?
Well, I'm just thinking of the unfunded liabilities, which, again, is, and you can see this in budgets. They specifically target Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Now, they call them unfunded because all the money that ever came into the system has already been spent one way or another.
Yeah, well, wait a second. Wasn't Social Security originally supposed to have its own account?
It was originally voluntary. It was originally, I believe, 1% on a very small amount of wages. Now it's no longer voluntary.
And they kept the money separate from the general fund.
That was the original intention, but later on that money was shoved into the general fund to reduce each year's annual deficit or shortfall. Now, in 2012, an economist out of Boston University named Lawrence Kotlikoff, he did a present value analysis of the unfunded liabilities. His present value estimate in 2012 was over $200 trillion. That actually dwarfs the the federal government treasury debt. The third aspect to our federal government debt, which no one generally talks about, is loan guarantees. I hadn't thought about this one before until August when I read that our federal government, guaranteed $500 million worth of loans to Tunisia. These guarantees allowed Tunisia to go out into the international market and borrow. Our guarantee covers the principal and interest in full. This is the third loan guarantee that we have provided for Tunisia in the last 4 years.
But Tunisia is populated by persons who chant death to America.
I didn't even I don't track what Tunisia is doing, but the point is this is just one more type of debt or liability that is being taken on by the federal government.
So how do we fix it? How do we fix it as we get close to the end of our time together? What's the ultimate fix?
The ultimate fix is you cannot repair, reform, or fix the monetary system that is the Fed. It must be replaced. There is a great replacement. It will only do one thing to banks. It will take the power to create money away from them and put it into an institution controlled and run and directed by the people, which will mean that we will again, this is a very short paraphrase. This will allow us, the people of this country, to have a federal government that does not need to tax or borrow. We can maintain the money supply to keep it in balance with the economy so we don't have inflation. Banks will still be doing everything else they're doing, except they don't get to create money. And if they need more money to make loans to people, they can borrow at a very low interest rate from what I call the national bank, the creator of money. States can do it.
The national bank, though, not being a single central bank, but...
Imagine a single entity, but it is directly owned by the people of the country. It is operated for the benefit of the people and our country.
And our original system under the founders was American banks and Congress, or more specifically the House, were in control of the monetary system. International banking wasn't even allowed. The central bank, which was created by Alexander Hamilton, was frowned upon.
Yes. What I would propose is that the creator of money, because money is created, and we could do a whole show on this. Money is created.
It's created by value going to the system, right? So,
no,
but isn't it created by loans?
No. Well, let me step back. Money is created in today's world, computerized world, by fingertips on a keyboard. One of the main ways banks create money is they make a loan. And to understand this, you just have to know basic bookkeeping and journal entries. And the journal entry, the most basic journal entry of creating money is debit, a loan receivable, credit, the borrower's checking account. That checking account is part of the money supply. It goes up with the credit. There's no offsetting decrease anywhere else in the system. Money has been added to the supply. Money has been created. That power must be taken away from banks.
Okay.
And return to the benefit of the people. And when the people get the benefit of money creation, we will be able to fund our government. Our federal government will have no need to tax and no need to borrow.
Well, there's also so much more to this, but we're just out of time. So we're going to have you back to continue this conversation in the future. But Alan, real quick before we let you go, plug what you want to plug.
Plug what I want to plug. I want to plug you because
appreciate the fact that you have faith in what we do here.
The Constitution is more than just a piece of paper. It's an incredible consolidation of hard work, thoughts, efforts, people struggling to define a way for people to live in harmony under the rule of law.
Right.
The other thing I would plug is, and we do this in our family, and it's part of our family tradition. Every 4th of July, we sit down and we read the Declaration of Independence. Most people don't know that. Maybe I think your readers would, or listeners would, but 56 men put everything, life, liberty, family, fortune, business, property, put it all on the line for a dream.
Right.
Start bringing that into your family tradition. I would suggest that if anybody have questions, comments, want more information, because I don't have a website up yet, please contact you, and you can get me the questions, the request. I'd love to speak to groups, so if anybody out there has a group they want to hear more about the Fed, banking, national treasury debt, please reach out to Doug, and he'll get that to me.
All right, Alan. Great having you on the air. Thanks for visiting us.
Oh, Doug, thank you. Everybody be safe and well, and enjoy your Saturday. Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas, sir. Okay, Alex, the clock is ticking. 5 minutes. Your book review on the war against cops.
Yeah, this is by Heather McDonald, and it is The Pointy End of the Spear. The fact of the matter is that it illustrates a Marxist war on law enforcement at every level. This is coming from, say, 1990, when we had crime pretty well under control. It was expensive, but not nearly as expensive as nowadays letting all the prisoners out of jail and allowing them to rape and pillage at will. That's really expensive. Now, it all started with a 1994 law that gives the Justice Department the authority to seek control of police agencies that have engaged in a pattern or practice of constitutional violations. On that basis, the federal government asserted oversight of the Los Angeles Police Department in 2000. The judge who put the LAPD under federal supervision was Eric Holder. You remember Eric Holder? He's the guy who pardoned the biggest tax cheat in history, Mark Rich. He pardoned the Machatero bombers from Puerto Rico when they wouldn't even concede that they had done wrong. He's the only cabinet member in history to be convicted of contempt of Congress. Yeah, that Eric Holder. Now, the original consent decree had nothing to do with racial profiling, but that was all they investigated. There are no published standards for opening a pattern or practice investigation or standards for institutional improvement. In other words, they just play it by ear. They got a guy named Fagan that makes up standards as he goes along. Now, an example of the redistribution of wealth, the Marxist redistribution of wealth here, just one aspect is Detroit's Federal Monitor collected $120,000 to $193,000 per month for her services, totaling a cool $13 million. The New Jersey police spent $36 million to build the racial profiling system demanded by the Clinton Justice Department, and $70 million running it. This is an abomination for the taxpayers, but the LAPD spent approximately $40 million the first year and $50 million for each of several years thereafter, trying to comply with this nonsense. In 2009, continuing this pattern, in 2009, 3 federal judges ordered California to reduce its prison population by 46,000 within 2 years because the prison health care was so poor as to constitute cruel and unusual punishment. Now, what we did was we let all kinds of criminals out of jail. It was a flood of felons, and the crime rate has skyrocketed, which is exactly what Eric Holder had in mind. Now, California has more than complied including spending over $1 billion on healthcare facilities. And what's the result? The result is that these judges are holding on to control without any excuse at all. Now, if you take, I'm married to a Japanese national. I deal with Japanese Americans all the time. They were discriminated against in World War II to the point they were put in concentration camps. These people handled that by proving to society that they were better than the people who were discriminating against them. Their 440 Go for Broke regiment earned more medals and Purple Hearts than any other military unit in American history. Their children, 90% of them go to college. They become doctors and lawyers and every kind of...
You're saying the best revenge is success?
You can react to prejudice two ways. You can react by becoming a ghetto and a infestation of crime and complaint and demands, or you can go out and show the world what kind of people you really are.
And unfortunately, time's up. We're going to continue with what you have to say about the War on Cops by Heather MacDonald next week. We're going to go to break. Call us, 951-922-3532. We'll get you on the air after the break.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman, President, Wholesale Capital Corporation, your direct mortgage lender. Real estate prices are still low, which means now's the time to buy your next home before they go up. Whether it's a home to live in, a vacation house, or an investment property, we can meet your mortgage financing needs to help you realize the next phase of your American dream. At Wholesale Capital Corporation, we make sure you get a loan that you can afford with terms that work for you. Wholesale Capital welcomes FHA buyers, conventional buyers, jumbo loan buyers, and we proudly help the U.S. military veterans take advantage of the zero down payment VA loan program. Nobody treats veterans better than Wholesale Capital Corporation. Seniors, if you're interested in creating an additional stream of income or just making your mortgage payment go away with a reverse mortgage, Wholesale Capital would love to help you. To speak with a loan officer who has your best interests in mind, call Wholesale Capital at 855-640-2020. That's area code 855-640-2020. Wholesale Capital Corporation, where we can close.
The true patriots of AllStar Collision have been proudly serving the Inland Empire for over 20 years. Built on honesty, integrity, quality, and old-fashioned customer service, we offer lifetime warranties for our work, and every vehicle serviced by AllStar Collision is washed, detailed, the headlights polished, fluids are checked and topped off, safety checked, and returned in showroom condition. We offer free estimates, are approved by major insurance companies, and accept all claims for all cars and trucks. We use computerized frame straightening to factory specifications, offer fiberglass body repair and paint, free local pickup and delivery, and after-hours towing. Mention this radio program at drop-off and receive $100 off or a free rental car for up to 5 days during your repair. Visit us at allstarci.com or at 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Call us at 951-279-9161. We are the kings of wreck and roll.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Tired of the lies? Come here for the truth. Douglas V. Gibbs.
Time for the third final segment on Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs, KMET 1490 AM. And you can listen to KMET1490am.com. Check out the podcast, especially if you missed part of the program, you want to hear the whole thing. Just find the show's link, scroll down to Saturday, hit the Saturday, scroll down to Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs, bring up that page, and you'll find a podcast button. Hit that. It'll take you to our SoundCloud page. You can not only hear the last program after it's complete, but also a number of our episodes before that. Also, many of the episodes, not all of them, but many of them are also on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/Douglas V. Gibbs. All right, here in California, don't you love living in California when it comes to the politics? Just absolutely peachy, isn't it?
There's never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. In California, a Democrat from San Diego in the state Senate, Ben Hueso, has introduced a bill that seeks to use California taxpayer money to fund legal representation for illegal aliens so that they can fight the federal government against deportation. What do you think?
I think that the man is completely out of his mind, but the California legislature is just the one to step up and take a swing at that ball.
Well, to get to the Constitution, Sixth Amendment to the United States enumerates your right to assistance in seeking a legal counsel, and this is just a proposal to expand that to non-citizens.
Well, yeah, hey, let's go rob a bank is a proposal too, but that doesn't mean you got to go for it.
Mm-hmm. He's calling it the Due Process for All Act. SB 6 is it's being pursued as we approach the inauguration of President-elect Trump. You think President-elect Trump's campaign promises that include becoming tough on immigration and increasing deportation efforts had a hand in this?
Well, the definition of all, when he says for all, he's including people who are not citizens of the United States. That sounds like the entire world to me.
So that sounds like it includes the criminal element, the terrorists, the
absolutely
gang members.
These Democrats are so far Marxist nowadays that they just glow red.
Just recently, there was an attack on the Ohio State campus where a Somali Muslim used his vehicle to run people down. Then he jumped out with a butcher knife, slicing people up. What was interesting is the media was first reporting it as a shooting because they want to make guns look bad every chance they get. Turns out it wasn't a shooting. In fact, what stopped the attack was, well, someone with a gun. So a reporter went out to the crowd talking to the students about it, and none of the students or faculty members interviewed by this reporter were willing to call it terrorism. One called it a misunderstanding. Another said it's dangerous to bring up his religion, Islam. Another made sure that they included, well, there's such thing as radical Christians, because, you know, there's Christian suicide bombers all over the place, right?
Oh, you see those Mormons with their axes and their swords tearing people apart all day long.
Well, you know, it's funny. We haven't had a problem with that, though, with the Christians.
Oh, yeah. That's an inconvenient fact, ain't it?
Yeah, it's an inconvenient fact. They could not bring themselves to call it terrorism.
John Kasich, the governor of Ohio, immediately got on the air, said it was a Somali student, that he'd crashed his car, that he'd pulled out a butcher knife, but he says we may never find out what motivated him. Well, hey, John, you know, wake up and smell the coffee, dude, you idiot. Must be a
Islam
liberal.
was the motivator, absolutely. Okay. All right, real quick, let's move on down. Desperate leftism to further restrict freedom of speech. The liberal left is in trouble because not only did Trump win, but Brexit won. Now in Italy, we saw, you know, the populist vote go against Renzi and his socialists. They're saying that France and Germany could be the next to topple, and they're getting really nervous. So you know what the left is doing?
What?
They are according to Reuters, in response to dictates issued by the leftist ruling class, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Microsoft will intensify their efforts to remove quote-unquote extreme content from their websites by creating a common database. So, to make it seem okay to the public, they're calling the move simply a targeting of terrorism and fake news.
Well, they're going to have a heck of a time covering up the fact that these refugees are robbing and raping at their heart's content. And people are what do you know? People getting raped and killed and robbed, they suddenly take notice.
Here's the quote. We hope this collaboration will lead to greater efficiency as we continue to enforce our policies to help curb the pressing global issue of terrorist content online. And while I get it, we want to protect ourselves from terrorism, what is truly their definition of terrorist content? Could the terrorists be the Bible-thumping, gun-toting conservatives who believe in the true real rule of law and limiting government as put forth by the principles and philosophies of the United States Constitution. In the end, it's all censorship, masked by illusions, smoke and mirrors, various smokescreens. The truth has become a radical idea or a revolutionary idea and a danger to the plans of the leftist establishment. They fabricate everything. They seek to silence all opposition. As with a magician, you're not allowed to see the truth. Sleight of hand and misdirection is the order of the day. The truth is out there, but you're not allowed to see it, recognize it, or talk about it. And if you do, you will be censored. Now, the uninformed public will be fine with it because, for all they know, what the conservatives do is nothing more than fake news. That's what we're being told. Brian Williams is reporting on, the fake news problem. Of course, remember, Brian Williams is, well...
He lost his job because of fake news, I believe.
Exactly. That's
claiming to have been in combat.
Pot calling the kettle black, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the media today, as Rush will tell you, it's all fake news. That's what they specialize in now. They've declared on the headline of the New York Times that they're no longer going to be objective. They're no longer going to try to tell both sides of the story. It's too important that they destroy Trumpites.
We've got speaking of Trumpites, we have the coming Trump administration, and there's preparations. But, I'm reading a book called Time Enough for Love by Robert Heinlein, famous science fiction writer. He and Larry Niven and Isaac Asimov were considered the big three when it came to science fiction writing. And in the book Time Enough for Love, Robert Heinlein explains the difference between reform politicians and business politicians, and he wrote that reform politicians not only tend to be dishonest, but stupidly dishonest, whereas the business politician is honest. Now, he doesn't say that the business politician is honest because he's truly honest or doesn't steal or whatnot, but and understand that all politicians, according to Highland, are non-productive. But the only commodity any politician has to offer is jawbone, his personal integrity, meaning if he gives his word, can you rely on it? A successful business politician knows this and guards his reputation for sticking by his commitments because he wants to stay in business. So if he's smart enough to be successful at this very exacting trade, he can have the morals of a snapping turtle, but he performs in such a way as not to jeopardize the only thing he has to sell, his reputation for keeping promises. This is written in 1973. It sounds like a pretty good description of Trump. Well, let's see if he describes Hillary Clinton and the Democrats as well. He says, a reform politician has no such lodestone. His devotion is to the welfare of all the people, an abstraction of very high order and therefore capable of endless definitions, if indeed it can be defined in meaningful terms. In consequence, basically, the sincere and incorruptible reform politician who believes that they're not capable of dishonesty becomes dishonest because of the necessity of it. Why? Because of his unswerving devotion to his ideal. All it takes is to get him to break his word is for someone to get his ear and convince him that it is necessary for the greater good of all people. After he gets hardened to this, he's capable of cheating at solitaire. Fortunately, he rarely stays in office long, except during the decay and fall of a culture. What's your thoughts?
My thought is that throughout history, these people, these champions of humanity that are going for the greatest good, end up for creating the greatest evil.
Let me give you one more of Robert Heinlein's quotes. You can sway 1,000 men by appealing to their prejudices quicker than you can convince one man by logic.
Absolutely.
And so as we see the Trump administration taking shape, our question is he mending fences, burning bridges, or blowing things up by talking to certain people like Romney, Paul Ryan? Well, these are people who stood against him during the campaign. Or is he actually seeking, talking to these people, number one, to give an image that he's willing to work with everybody? Number two, does he see maybe a certain skill set that these people have? Now, I definitely wouldn't want Romney to be Secretary of State per se, which, by the way, Mayor Giuliani, Rudy Giuliani, just said he didn't want. He stepped down from that race. But question is, what's Trump doing? Well, I will tell you that if you've read The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump, you know exactly what he's doing. It's all about perception and getting the right people around you based on their skill set. What do you think?
I'm an 80%er. Trump made a lot of promises. He talked a lot about what his game was going to be. If he keeps 80% of them, I'm for him. He's got that guy that nobody ever heard of that he just brought on board the consideration just before Giuliani dropped out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking it may be that he's been playing with these people in order to dignify this last guy he got on board.
Perhaps.
Because, like I say, nobody ever heard of him. I can't even think of his name right now.
One more minute on stories real quick. Why does the December 19th Electoral College official vote even matter? When you voted for your electors, not for the President of the United States. And so the actual Electoral College, they meet on December 19th. Now, a lot of these guys are getting death threats and so on and so forth. And it does matter because they are the ones that actually cast the votes. Is it possible for it to change? My response has been this: no, because we're all armed and the left thinks we're crazy.
Well, I'm saying that I would put nothing past the Marxist revolutionaries who have taken over the Democratic Party, and there are death threats. These people are being threatened. They're being bribed, I'm sure. We've got people with hundreds of millions of dollars like Soros and Clinton and the rest of them. Everybody's got his price, right? Well, they've got the price.
Well, reminder, the United States is not a democracy. We are a republic. The Electoral College is a part of that. It protects us from the excesses of democracy. National popular vote in the 4 biggest cities of the country would vote for president. Nobody else's votes would matter. But because we have Electoral College, the candidates must appeal to all Americans and get a little bit of each part of America in order to pull it off. Okay. That said, we're about out of time, so plug yourself.
The system is perfect, but like they say, it has to be run by a moral people.
That's right.
So go to conservativecannonade.org and learn something.
And I am Douglas V. Gibbs. You can learn more about me at douglasvgibbs.com, politicalpistachio.com. United we stand, combined we kick butt. And never forget, God bless America, my friends. God bless you. We'll see you next week. Chad Prather will be our guest. See you then.
The preceding was a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
This is 1490 AM KMET, Banning, Beaumont, Redlands, and Palm Springs. News, talk, sports.
From ABC News, I'm Daria Albinger. New details are emerging about the role the